early on when I was trying to figure out after the first webinar I did was the rental relief request webinar, where we had 640 people sign up. And then I did the Facebook prospecting webinar, and I realized, and we had like a couple hundred people on that one. I said, okay, obviously people are sitting home and, looking for things to do. Let's have a webinar series. And I put out some ideas of some topics that I thought would be fun. And the time management one was a huge, everyone wanted that one. That was a lot of people. And then people gave me ideas. And some of you said, what was your first deal, or what was your toughest deal, or your hardest deal? Or so my toughest deal just happened to be my first deal after I left and went on my own in 2004. So I've given this, I told Jim, I've given this talk to many college students. I've never given it to the public before. So I thought, since it was already in the can, we've presented it numerous times, it was an easy thing to pull out of the Dropbox and show. So here we go. I will share with you my toughest deal ever. All right. So for those of you that know me, I am, market knowledge is, I think, one of the most important things that we need to have in many, many parts of our commercial real estate life. In my latest book, The Retail Leasing Playbook, it literally encompasses, and then in the online class, market knowledge is like the first third of the book and the first third of the class. Because without having market knowledge, you have zero idea of market rents, vacancies, incentives being given, et cetera, et cetera. And then I just spoke to a young woman yesterday about her career path, and I asked her posed the same question. What's the market? She's like, should I leave my company? I'm having some doubts of staying, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, what's the market? And she had no idea. So market knowledge is just crucial. And in this case, with this first deal, or toughest deal, the reason I bought the deal is because of my market knowledge. And I'm going to share with you what I mean by that. Or not. Sorry, guys. So here is the area. This is in South Florida. And can you see my mouse, Josie? I presume you guys can.
Yes, we see the mouse.
So this is the site here, and you can see it is an outparcel of a Lowe's. This is a Shell gas station. This is a Starbucks. This is a McDonald's, Bank of America. Look at this old name, Blockbuster Video. Publix is a supermarket anchored shopping center. This whole area here was called Coquina Plaza. This was a Pancake House, and this was a lot that I'll talk about, and Lowe's. And then down here was a big General Cinema, a big General Cinema, not General Cinema, but right now it's a Cinemark, and then TGI Fridays. And this is I-75, and this is Sheridan. And west of here is a lot of, $300,000 to $500,000 and up homes. And I happen to live about 2 miles this way. So I'm very familiar. This is our movie theater. And at the time that this opportunity came up, the company I'd worked with before, Terra Nova, and this was, by the way, right here was a multi-tenant strip center right here. So we had the leasing on this shopping center right here. All these outparcels were built out by the developer. This was a strip center. And then we had the leasing of this strip center and then this property right here. And it was 100% leased. So we were just like a place card for our client, a German pension fund, who we needed to be the leasing and manager of this deal, even though there was not really any leasing because it was 100%. Additionally, this site right here, next to this site, was a parcel that our German client called us one day and said, we just got back this piece of land the out parcel on Coquina Plaza, and we want you to sell it. So I went to my leasing agent who worked in this area, and I said, Steve, our client wants us to sell this out parcel. What do you think we should offer? What do you think we should ask for this out parcel? Go do a market study, so we know what we need to put out there as the sale price. So he goes out like 3 or 4 days later, comes back, and he said, I have no idea, because there's not that much in the marketplace. I'm going to go to this next slide. So here was a bigger overview. So here's the site. You can see Publix, Lowe's, the Movie Co. Fridays. And then you can see that there was very little in the area for him to get any kind of idea about pricing, right? This stuff over here was really far away in another market. This stuff over here, very far away in really like a different submarket. So this piece was about, I want to say it was 3/4 of an acre, 3/4 of an acre. So it was smaller than this piece. This piece was 1.77 acres. So this was about 3/4 of an acre. So we go ahead and we put a sale price out on it of about, I think we started at around $4.99 for 3/4 of an acre. We had no idea. And within 24 hours, we had 3 full price offers. So we knew right away that we were under market for that deal. So we ended up going, and they were all 3, public company fast food chains. So we ended up retrading everyone and just kind of going out to an open bid. And I think we ended up selling it, the 3/4 of an acre, for almost $1 million. So $1 million, 3/4 of an acre. And we ended up selling it to Applebee's. Our client was thrilled, because this was, I think, who had it before was Longhorn Steakhouse or one of those guys, and they had gone bankruptcy, and they ended up turning it back to the developer. So it was 3/4 of an acre for $1 million. So at the time, and I'm still with Terra Nova, my prior company, I see this property available, and it's 1.77 acres, and they're asking $1.2 million. And I went to my partner and I said, oh my gosh, we need to buy this deal because it's 1.77 acres. We just sold the deal next door at 3/4 of an acre for like $980,000. And my partner at the time said, we've got bigger fish to fry. We don't want to be buying out parcels. So we didn't end up doing it. Fast forward, I leave that company 6 months later, and I'm driving. I think I went to the movies one night, and I see that this deal's still for sale. I call up the next day, and General Electric Credit Corporation was the entity that owned it. They had foreclosed on, some other fast food restaurant, and I said, what's the price? And they said 1.2 million. And I said, how big is it? And they said 1.77 acres. And I said, okay. I said, and the broker said, they're not negotiable. Like it's gotta be 1.2. So I said, okay. So, understanding that it was General Electric Credit was important to me because I knew that they had zero idea about the market. They were based in Connecticut. The broker was based in Tampa, which is about 4 hours from us. So they didn't really understand what was going in the market. Like they had no idea what we just sold the Applebee's for next door, which is, music to my ears. So I decide that we're going to put it under contract, or I'm going to put it under contract. So I don't have $1.2 million in the bank. So I take 4 of my girlfriends and I take them to dinner at a restaurant, which I'm going to go back and show you. So right here on the end cap of this strip center is a Cuban restaurant. And I took them to dinner. They're like, why are we going to eat at a Cuban restaurant? I said, you'll see. And we sat right here and the window faced the property. And I said, look out that window? And they said, yeah. And I said, see that piece of land? And they're like, yeah. And I said, we're going to buy that. And they're like, what? I'm like, we're going to buy that. And they thought I was absolutely crazy. And one of them said, you know, my son's getting married. I don't have them. I said, it's 1.2 million. I want to find 10 friends that will give me 100 grand. And my one girlfriend said, I don't have the money because my son's getting married and blah, blah, blah. And another one said, I don't really like buying land. And then the other one said, you know, interesting, but, you know, not sure. I said, okay, well, you guys don't have to do it, but I'm going to go buy it. So I start calling people. So what I did was I hired a guy to do this investment opportunity package, and I paid him $5,000 because I had no idea. So I came from a company where I was the president and had 150 people at my disposal to do packages, marketing packages, underwriting. I'm a great leasing agent. I had no idea how to do an Argus run or any of that. I know how to read Argus runs, but I didn't know how to create one. And I didn't think I could go out to a bunch of people and offer, you know, or ask for them to give me 100 grand or 50 grand and not have, you know, this like financial, you know, offering memorandum. So I called my friend Jeff, who's very smart and had done this many times. And I gave him, we agreed to $5,000, and he did this very fancy package. And, you know, it had this development pro forma in it. It had this acquisition deal thing in it. And so that's what we did. And we said, it's 1.2 million and it's 1.77 acres. And we want to raise money. We're going to go get a loan, but you know, how much equity can we raise? And that's what we went out to do. And I think I went out to probably 20 people, and 14 people stepped up. And I'll show you later the partners that, you know, the amounts of money that the partners put in. So now I have my equity, and now I've got to go get a loan. So again, I had never done this before in my life. So someone said that Union Bank was giving loans, and they would, you know, give a loan to me for this land. So they gave us a proposal of this, you can see, a $780,000 acquisition loan. And I think, okay, so I had another option of another bank, but I went with this bank. And everything was going along hunky-dory until the appraisal came in, and the appraisal was appraised at, I think it came in at $600,000. I was infuriated because obviously it was a residential appraiser. He didn't even, like I had, you know, did you not look at the information that I gave you that Applebee's just bought this site for $980,000 for 3/4 of an acre right next door? Like, it was infuriating. And I thought, okay, this is going to be my first deal and my last deal. You know, I'm not going to be able to buy the deal. And I have the deal under contract, and I have a certain amount of time that I have to close, but now I have to start all over with a new bank, because the banks back then, this was in 04, this is even way before the whole 08, 09 crisis, but they were still very gun shy about, you know, the appraisals not coming in right, yada, yada. So now I've got to start off with a new bank. And so so my girlfriend Ivy, so smart, who, you know, had done a lot more of this, she said, look, the bank doesn't, the seller doesn't want to start all over with another buyer. Explain what happened and try to get an extension. So I did that, and I got an extension, which was a beautiful thing. They gave me an extension to get another bank so that we could get another more legitimate appraisal, which we did. So now we've closed on the property. We get a bank loan. I have equity, and we're rocking and rolling. Now, it was in the REA, the reciprocal easement agreement, and there was deed restrictions that would not allow us to split the parcel. So I couldn't split the parcel into two, you know, 3/4 of an acre deals and sell them off. So the only thing we could do was to land lease. I wanted to land lease it. I didn't want to sell it, but we could have land leased it to one operator. We could have sold it to one operator, or we could have land leased it to two operators. So that was the plan. the plan was we're going to do 2 fast food restaurants and ground lease them. So, and I put up a sign on the property that said, this was the site plan, and we showed this on the property. We said 2 ground leases available. And I wrote on the sign, no hamburger, no gas, and no bank, because in the deed restrictions on that, so we had deed restrictions running with this out parcel. This whole piece had deed restrictions. So if I had Bank of America, I couldn't do a bank. If I had Shell Oil, I couldn't do gas, you know, all Publix, etc. So all these people in the lease, when we bought the piece of land, we had to agree to assign all of the deed restrictions that ran with this, almost like a PUD. So because I couldn't do bank, gas, and hamburger, I didn't want all these people calling me about, you know, I want to do gas or hamburger or a bank. I wanted to stop those phone calls. So I thought I was brilliant. So I have a leasing sign up. We want 2 ground leases. And if you're a bank, gas, or burger, don't call me. So all good. So very exciting. Remember, we have this under, you know, we closed for 1.2 million for equity and a loan. So we start negotiating with a couple ground lessees. So here you can see Pollo Campero coming into our South Florida market at the time. And we have $100,000 land lease offer. So I have to pause because my dog is sitting right in front of me and she has to go to the bathroom, and I've locked my boys out of my room. So hold on. Come get, this is real time. Come get dog. She has to pee. Did you like that? Okay. So, so here's our first offer in August. And I don't know when we closed. Maybe Josie, maybe you can look up to see when we closed. I think we closed in, like, I don't know, June or July. So August 8th, 2005. Oh no, it was, I think we even closed in 04. So we have this ground lease of 100 grand. You can see ground lease number 1. Thank you so much. I literally had to stop my webinar and say the dog has to pee. I have to tell my kids. And then another one, which was Arby's, and they had offered, where's the number? 85,000. So you developers out there, not bad, 185 of net income. And look at that. That was in November of 04, that deal, right? So November of 04. So Arby's stepped up. And by the way, I remember Arby's being one of the suitors for the Applebee's piece. So we now have 185,000 of ground lease potential income on our, you know, $1.2 million purchase. So I'm feeling very, very excited about this. 2 ground leases, right? Everyone agree? Put in the chat if you would agree that you would take that deal, you know, anytime. So, so what happens? So I get a call one day. So now, by the way, the 3 women that were in the restaurant that night, they're all in the deal. Okay, they all, like, once I put it under contract and I started raising money with my family and friends, all those 3 women are in the deal. So, and one of the women works for a company that does Walgreens development. So I get a call one day from a guy in her company named Todd. And Todd calls me up and I go, hey, Todd. And I know the only thing he does is Walgreens. And I said, what's up? And he says, I'm calling about your Southwest Ranches site. And I'm like, but you only do Walgreens. He goes, yeah, I'm calling for Walgreens. And I'm like, but it's off corner. So, you know, reminding you of the site. Okay, it's off corner. This is the corner. There's a gas station on the corner. It's off the corner. He goes, yeah, we know. But I'm sure you realize that there's nothing available in the market. So we are interested in off corner. And I'm like, awesome. And so I go, can I call you right back? And he goes, sure. I hang up and I call my friend, who's his boss, who's a partner in the deal. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Todd just called. you're not going to believe this. Keith says Walgreens is interested. Like Walgreens is interested in our site. And she's like, there's no way. And I'm like, I know it, right? It's off corner. And she goes, yeah. So she goes, let me go find out. So she hangs up. She goes to see Todd and walks down the hallway. Todd, what's up? Yeah, it's real. It's real. They're very interested. And she's like, oh my God. She comes back. She calls me. She goes, okay, I have to now disclose that I'm part of this deal because, you know, this is a conflict. I'm like, okay, well, your boss already knows you're a partner in my deal. Yeah, he knows. But we need to disclose to our client. Okay, so we have to be arm's length. I'm like, okay. So we now start down the road of a Walgreens ground lease. And of course, they want to buy. And I'm like, nope, not interested, only interested in a ground lease. Okay, so we start negotiating. So I got to tell these two guys, Arby's and Pollo Campero, sorry, we're going to put your deals on hold. And we work out an LOI. So this is November of 04. So we work out an LOI for 2.25 ground lease, right? So this is my first deal. Like I'm loving life. I shouldn't have been loving life because you'll see what happens. So, so we're very excited. We're going to do a 2.25 ground lease with Walgreens, like the best credit in the land. And we literally start negotiating for months and months. And we're negotiating for months and months. And I literally, God or a higher power, who the hell knows, I literally sat up in my bed one night in a cold sweat and said, isn't that weird that Publix didn't have an exclusive on drugstores? Because they have an exclusive in every lease I've seen in my career. There's an exclusive on drugstores. And I could not go to sleep. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, I called my girlfriend and I said, because she was the one who did the due diligence with me in all of the documents. And remember, we were very thorough to know I couldn't do bank, hamburger, and gas, to the point that I put it on the signs that certainly was there not a drugstore exclusive in the Publix lease? I said, and she goes, oh my God. Of course there was. I said, right? So I'm leaving right now at 6 in the morning to go to my office, because back then we didn't have the leases on Dropbox or in the cloud. And I drive to my office and I call her at 6:15 with the terrible news that Publix, that not only does Publix have an exclusive for a drugstore, it's a deed restriction, and all of the parties, it's in all of the parties' leases, no drugstore. I hope you all of you developers in the room, you know, you can understand the pit at the bottom of my stomach. And I'm telling you that the land lease negotiations were for sure 3 or 4 months in the making. And now I have to call Todd, and I have to call, you know, my attorney, and we have to tell Walgreens. And how embarrassing, how embarrassing. And you know, everyone on the call I know, and everyone listening on this recording, it's the #1 rule to read the documents. And for weeks, my girlfriend and I were like, how did we miss that? And all I have no idea, except for all I can think of, and I believe this is what happened, is of course I read that there was a pharmacy exclusive, but I went to the position of that Walgreens in that era only did hard corner deals. They never went off corner. So I just think I said, well, it doesn't matter that there's a Walgreens or a pharmacy exclusive, because there's only 2 pharmacies. It was Walgreens and at the time Eckerd Drugs, if you guys even know who that is. And there's no way that they're going off corner. So I think that we just discounted it. Don't discount in the future. So huge lessons learned there. So so we've had the appraisal problem, and now we've had, this is a huge problem. This is a huge problem, and just a very embarrassing problem, because in 04, now I've been in the business since 88. Like, you know, you don't make mistakes like this. So very embarrassing. And here it is, you know, you're not allowed to sell drugs required by law to be dispensed by a registered pharmacist. And, you know, we were definitely breaking that. So very embarrassing, very embarrassing. Now, so what happens? So I call Publix and I say to Publix, you know, would you do me a favor? Like, no. Like, okay. And I literally for probably 6 months called Publix every month. And I had a really good relationship with Publix built over many years. I had a very good relationship with the guy at Publix. And for 6 months called Publix. No go. And then, and every probably 3 weeks, Todd, on behalf of Walgreens, was calling me. While that was going on, we went back to the fast food restaurants and we're negotiating. That's why there was an 05 LOI, because we, you know, we're back negotiating with those guys. But every time Walgreens called me, I had more courage to come up with the idea of calling Publix, I think the 7th or 8th time, and said, would you take $1 million? Would you take $1 million to get rid of the exclusive? And the Publix guy said, and I think before I called Publix, I think I said to the Walgreens folks, if I could get them to release it for $1 million, would you put money in on that? And I believe I got that. I got Walgreens to say yes to that. So Publix says, I think we'd take $1 million. So now I'm like, okay, now, so I go back to Walgreens and I say, Publix will take $1 million. I said, you put in, I think I said, you guys put in 700 and I'll put in 300, I think is what I did. And now we're off to the races. So everyone participates. I participate, Walgreens participates, and yeah, so let's see, it says, Walgreens has authorized me to present to you a release of 300. I'll match their commitment and the total sum we're offering is 600. We ended up going up to $1 million. We gave Publix $1 million. But then what happened was the attorney said, Beth, you're not done there. You have to go get releases from Lowe's, Publix. Well, Publix we had Lowe's, Starbucks, Bank of America, Shell, McDonald's, Applebee's. I think that's it. So I think 6 or 7 other people. And my attorney said, just give up. It's never going to happen. And if any of you know me, that's like putting a red flag, a red cape in front of me. I'm like, are you kidding? I just got Publix to agree to this. I am going to go make this happen. So I started with relationships. Oh, and I had to get the developer. So I went to the developer who was my former client and he said, of course, no problem. I went to Lowe's because one of my former leasing agents or members of my team at Terra Nova repped Lowe's, and I said, and I knew the Lowe's people, so I called Lowe's. They said no problem. Then I went to Applebee's, who had just done that deal, and I got them to waive it, no problem. Then I went to then my attorney, who I was working with, was the attorney for Bank of America, so he called his guy and got it, no problem. McDonald's, I reached out to someone I knew who had a relationship with McDonald's and got that. So I'm now 5 out of 7 done. And I have to work with Starbucks, which was an investor. It wasn't Starbucks. It was an investor who bought the Starbucks real estate, and Shell Oil. And Starbucks wanted money. The Starbucks investor wanted money. And Shell Oil just wouldn't even communicate with me. And I could not do this deal without getting all these approvals. So here it was. This was the tract. So it was, you know, Shell was here. This was the parcel. This was Applebee's. I had to get the Pancake House, Lowe's. So I had to get all these people. So like I said, I'm down to 2 people. And jumping ahead there. And so finally, we make a deal with Starbucks. I think I had to give them, I want to say it was about 37 grand. And then I had to get Shell And Shell, there's a picture somewhere. I sent Shell, oh shoot. I'll tell you, I guess it comes up later. I finally had to get Shell I sent Shell cookies. I sent those little cookies that you can write things on. And I said, Shell's #1. I only buy gas from Shell. I'll only buy gas from Shell for the rest of my life. I wrote little things on cookies. And then the guy called me. Oh, Starbucks, I think I paid 17 grand. And then I paid Shell 37 grand. So we were in it for less than 50,000. But the cookies is what saved me to get the guy's attention and then get the document signed. So now I've gotten all of these approvals. My attorney couldn't believe it because he was like, give up, give up, give up. He was a very conservative guy. I would never use him again. It's so important, the attorneys that you pick. So we're finally good to go. I got all the approvals. We're moving forward. And then Walgreens calls and says, will you sell? So the Walgreens developer, who by the way is my friend's company, so they call and say, you know, we really want to buy the deal. We really want to buy the deal. We don't want to do a ground lease. And I'm thinking, okay, everything I've ever heard in commercial real estate is you know, ground lease if you can. Don't sell unless you have to. So I called some of my partners most of my partners were in the real estate industry. And I'm like, you know, they really want to buy. They're like saying, name the price. And so we're like, okay, well, of course we would all love to own, maybe not now. Think now, you know, in 2020, I'm glad we don't own the Walgreens. But we all agreed that for a certain price, we would agree to sell. So we threw out the price and which I'll show you in a minute. So we threw out the price and then we said, we don't pay the public's money and we don't pay a brokerage fee. If you want to buy, you buy it at this price and you pay all of the public's commitment and I don't have to pay your broker. And they really wanted it. So they offered, so I guess they had to pay my 300,000 of the public's payment because they had already agreed to pay the 600, a brokerage fee of 75 and the ground lease and at a 6.4 cap rate. So that's what we agreed to. And they said, okay, they would do that. So, and now they kept extending. Now we have it under contract with them. And now they're extending. I'm starting to get worried about the economy and I'm pushing them to close because I'm starting to see signs. I'm getting very nervous and it's a conflict with me and my girlfriend. And I'm like, they got to close. We got to close. We got to close. So, and then back to my lawyer, that whole problem with my lawyer, I didn't like him. He didn't work for the benefit of me. Like I kept telling him to tell them they got to close, like put pressure on them. And he was just very conservative. He was a very conservative guy and it just didn't work. I wasn't comfortable with him at all. And I learned a very important lesson. And don't rely on, I back then in the beginning, again, this is my first deal. I felt like I was insecure about my intelligence about doing deals on my own. I had been a partner in many deals with my former partner, but he always took the lead. He always did everything. Now I'm front and center. I'm representing a bunch of partners behind me, their money, and I was very insecure. But in the end, everything that I had an instinct about, it played out and I was right. So, but I kept relying on other people. And so I learned that was another lesson, to just go with your instinct and push hard and do the best you can. And don't be worrying about or listening to lawyers who, you know, he told me to give up, that I would never get the 7 approvals. So I should have knew right then. At one point, I thought about changing lawyers midstream and actually got some advice and people were like, you know, you'll start all over. It'll be a big mess. So don't do that. So I didn't, but I never used that guy again. So here are the cookies. I knew I had a picture of the cookies. This is the cookie, these types of cookies. I've sent these cookies a lot to different people in my history when someone goes MIA for $30, these cookies they're a huge trick. So use them. So it's not over yet. I promise you. We finally have a closing date It's 2 weeks before closing, and the buyers say, we have a problem. I go, what's that? And they said, FP&L has a transformer on the property, and it's supposed to be in the easement, but it's not in the easement, it's fully on the property. And I'm like, and I didn't catch that when I bought the property, I didn't catch that. They're like, you got to move it or we're not closing. I'm like, I got to move an FP&L transformer. He's like, yeah. So I, of course, call FP&L. You developers, if any developers are listening, like this is impossible. So I'm calling FP&L and they're like, oh yeah, we'll get you, in 9 months. And I'm like, no, you got to do this now. And calling them. I'm calling people. Does anyone know anybody at FP&L? Nothing. So I finally literally look up the address of FP&L in Davie, where I live. I drive to the FP&L office. I bring them cookies, like just cookies from Publix or a bakery, and I sit until someone sees me. I sat in, and if you've ever been in an FP&L office, there's not a big, nice waiting room. Like there's literally a chair, and then there's like this door where it's locked and it was bizarre. I sat in that little chair for 4 hours until someone saw me. Gave them the cookies, they saw me, and they're like, we'll do what we can, but we're not sure. So finally, they get it on the schedule to move it. So here is the site. Here's the Walgreens, here's the site, and the transformer, like here's the easement, and it's, clearly you can see on the property. So the cookies helped, my sitting there for 4 hours helped. They get it on the job. We now have to extend the closing. They finally agree that they are going to get a crew out there to move it. They go ahead and move it. Here's another picture. So here's the easement. They've got to move the transformer from wherever it is into the easement. They do it, they move it. The buyer goes out to check to see if the work is done. Here are the other things I did offer to the buyer. I could get an indemnification from FP&L, which FP&L offered to do. The title company would agree to release them, and I agreed to put money in escrow for them to get it moved. So I had done all of those things prior to me going and convincing FP&L to move it. And the buyer said, no go. So I finally get FP&L to agree to move it. They go move it. We get an 8-week extension. I got non-refundable money from them that they would close once I got this done. All things I learned in the fly. They move it in 3 weeks. And then guess what happened? No one's going to guess what happened. They missed by a foot. They moved it. They went out. I told the company, the buyers, they moved it. They went out and it was still on the property by a foot. By this time, I throw up my hands. I said, either you close or you don't, but this deal's over because there's nothing more left in me. And we closed with the transformer still on my property. And here is, everyone made 199.9% on their money. The profit was, $2 million. You can see we had partner A, B, C. We had 14 partners. You can see here, these were the friends of Beth. I had 5 people that were good friends of mine that I wanted to have be in the deal. They could only afford $10,000. This was the maybe it's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 6, 5 people, and they were the FOB group. So they were the friends of Beth, and everyone else did 50 or 100. Here's another person that did 10. Obviously, a huge $50,000 investment, 199.91% on their money. As you probably figured out, I knew nothing about 1031 exchanges. So I was very happily, I paid everyone their money. And then we found Shops of Arrowhead very soon thereafter. So I wished I would have done the 1031, but I didn't know any better. We were just happy everyone got checks. It was great. And it was in less than, I think from start to finish, I think it was about 2.5 years, maybe less. And every one of those partners then rolled into Shops of Arrowhead. So, you know, when you do the right thing and everyone makes money, you know, those partners are there for the next ride. So I will now see if there are any questions in the chats. Let's see, do we got chats here? Does that work? Let's see, chat, 12 in the chat. So did you guys like that story? How do I do chats here? Hold on. I can buy real estate, but I can't figure out how to, oh, here.
Stop sharing your screen.
Oh, is that what I need to do? How do I do that? Stop sharing. Okay, there we go. Ooh, look at all those people, 26 people. Did you guys love that story? Is that a great story? That from my first deal? Crazy, crazy. So, okay, let's go from the top. We'll work our way from the top. So contract price, oil change. Contract price was 1.2 is what we paid. Sounds like a great deal. Yes, agree. 10 times. I felt, yeah, you feel it in your stomach. Any charge for the extensions? I charged them. Let me know when you went an investor. Okay, Allison. Please go back to the distribution screen. Okay, I will. I got to go back to sharing the screen. Share screen. Here we go. Let's see. Maybe I might not be able to do this. Okay, go back. Where do we go back? Sorry, guys. So I got, I did a promote to me, which I think was, I'm not sure what it was, 15 or 20%, I think. And they agreed to do and then I agreed to give them each a pref. And I don't remember what the number was. So here was, so if you were, if you were a partner, if partner H gave 100 grand, their preferred return was 22.8, their profit was 177. Pretty good. Now, I would tell you that none of the rest of my deals I've ever done in my career have been that great. So, so that's that. Did you perform any site inspections other than the survey or phase one? When I bought it, I did a phase one. I obviously, and we did title. So what happened was the transformer thing came up in the title survey when the buyers were doing the title. It did not come up in my title survey. Who's the cookie company? Yeah, I love the cookie. I've used the cookie story. There's a bunch of cookie stories that I've done the cookies with. Any other questions? Did you guys like that? If you want, you can unmute yourself. Eddie, did you like that story? Since there's only 25 of us, I don't mind. Eddie, what'd you think about that?
I love real estate stories. I absolutely love them. And like, this is my stuff, right? Like, this is what I want to do. And this is what I nerd out on. So yes. And it's awesome that you share things like this with us. So guess what I'm going to do when I step up to the plate?
That's what I want you guys all, you know, when I'm not here for the next downturn, I'm going to be, you know, right here on this beach back here in Hawaii. You all better be paying this forward, right? You better be doing that. Yeah. That's why I'm trying to set some standards here. So I know you will.
I'll have to say, I got stressed out listening to it. Just like, oh my gosh, it's for your first deal, that would be, and especially for someone to say, just back out. And you're like, no, this is going to work. That's a good job, you know, not giving up. That's the story in and of itself, you know.
I don't know if Josie wants to jump in. I mean, Josie was a brand new, you know, I had just hired Josie in April of 04. This was all happening. She didn't even know what we were doing. I mean, I can't imagine. I don't know what she was thinking. Now she'd say, oh, well, Beth will figure it out. But so many lessons. I would. Now you would. But back then, were you freaking out? What were you thinking?
Yeah. I was like, what is this woman doing?
And you know, and having the attorney, truly this attorney from Tampa that was recommended to me by someone, he was such a jerk. And he was like, you're never going to get those 7 people to give you, you know, releases. And even if you do, it's going to cost you a lot of money. And I kept saying, I think I can get them. I think I know a lot of them. I mean, so important having all of those relationships, knowing the Lowe's guy, and have had a relationship with them. No, my attorney, did help with the Bank of America, knowing the broker for McDonald's, knowing having done the Applebee's deal, knowing and then the Starbucks investor was kind of a jerk. I kind of even knew them, but they just wanted money. And then the Shell guy, by that time, I just needed to get it done. Now you can imagine I'm now 6 of the 7 done, whatever the Shell guy wants, because we were thinking, if we can make this amount of money, we could have paid more money to get those approvals. So I probably offered the Shell guy 25 grand, probably even would have gone up to 50, 75, or 100 at that point. And then I really lucked out. I think we only paid him 37. But yeah, and again, Paul, I don't know if I truly don't know if my promote was 20 or 30%. I have no idea. I don't remember. It was so long ago. We've done this only for college students. And I said, let's pull that out of the vault and let me show this. So my memory is a little thin on the whole promote and all that stuff. So it was somewhere between 20 and 30 for sure. So that was my first deal. So many lessons learned. Read the documents, read the documents, read the documents. Don't assume, don't say no for the prospect. I should have called Walgreens. I just assumed, well, they don't go off, they don't go off hard corners. So why would they go here? We probably could have gotten better than the 6.4. Probably looking back, look, we're not gonna look the gift horse in the face. Obviously we made a crap ton of money. How about my girlfriends? My 3 best girlfriends said, no, we're not gonna do that. You're crazy. Sitting in that restaurant, looking out that window. The whole FP&L I just finished a Starbucks development. Starbucks opened in November, December. Those of you that follow me know this story. And, I literally went 6 months ago and went to an FP&L's contractor's office. I'm telling you, up in where, where, down a road. I remember texting people going, if you don't hear from me again, I think I am in Deliverance area of South Florida, down this road, turn. But I took them cookies and cupcakes and because they were 3 months. 3 months until we can get out there. And all we needed them, we were demolishing a building and I needed them to disconnect the utilities, and 3 months, it's going to be 3 months. And I went and took these guys cookies. When I snuck in, there's Fort Knox to get into this place. And I went in behind a guy in a pickup truck. I'm in my little red shirt. I'm bringing a little ponytail. I bring the cupcakes. I walk in this trailer and they're like, hello? And I'm like, so hi guys, I know you've got a lot on your plate and a lot of jobs and a lot of pressures, but I just wanted to, bring you these cupcakes and cookies just in case, if there's any way you can put my job sooner than 3 months. They did it the next week. My GC, who has been a GC for 40 years, said, and I posted it, you guys have seen it. They're like, there's no way you're getting this done. We've done everything. We've called lawyers, we've called engineers. I said, I'm going to do it with the cookies. I'm going to get this done with the cookies. And I did, and we got it done. So never underestimate the power of cookies, or just, that people are human beings. And I also did this with a permitting person. We were trying to get something done at permitting. I took another thing of cookies, and the lady was like, we're not allowed to take cookies. And then another lady came out and he goes, as long as they're for everyone. I said, they're for everyone. Please, there's lots of cookies. And again, 2 days later, we got what we wanted. So, yelling at people, and getting all ticked off, just use cookies. Just use cookies, it works. So, all right, guys. If there are no other questions, I think I started this with this whole webinar fatigue, but I hope that was fun and you learned a lot.